The past year or two has been a really interesting period for me in my life. I've had a lot of opportunities to travel, opportunities to be at places, see things, meet people. And I've always had an issue in my head. Maybe this is just the way I see things, but I've always found it to be an issue. In my city, which is relatively small, there are a lot of great people. And I have met a lot of people who I like. A lot of my best friends are located here. However, a lot of the people who I grew up with, a lot of the people who are still about in the city, which is obviously where I am currently right now, have a certain mindset. A mindset which just I fundamentally disagree with. Now, I've always thought maybe it's me that's the issue, and I find this to be the case in smaller towns and cities more than in other places, but I always thought maybe people were right. From a young age, I knew what I wanted. I wanted to have my own business. I didn't necessarily care about being like rich. I do want to be rich. I would love to be rich, but even a moderately successful business gives you enough freedom, right? If you can pay the bills, pay for your car, and look after yourself and your family, then I think that's a fairly successful business. You may not have a Lamborghini on the drive, but I still consider that to be a success. However, from a young age, despite actually having notable wins, such as making my own YouTube channel, which began to make me like 3,000 a month at age 13, I was always told, no, that's too good to be true. No, that can't work. Certain things can't work. Certain things just will not work out the way that you think that they will. You can't do this. It's too risky to do that. So on and so forth. And it's only this year that I've begun to meet people at mass who just reject this. And I've always thought, maybe I've just got an obscure way of thinking. Maybe I am genuinely wrong. Maybe there's something that I don't know that these people do. But then I travelled to a lot of what you may call, European destinations or digital nomad spots or whatever. It depends what you want, right? But I managed to meet a lot of people who did what I do and do what I do and live the life that I live. And I'm going to say one thing fully. Right now, I am struggling to decide on making that decision to perhaps move or spend a very considerable amount of time overseas. And that's not for any particular reason. There is a degree of fear to it. What if I don't do well there? What if I don't make friends? What if things don't work out? There is also the financial aspect. Does it make more sense to stay in my city where I'm around people and where I have a relatively stable cost of living? All these different question marks. But what I'll say is I met people out there who were living there, who were doing online businesses. Maybe it was something to do with writing, content creation, consulting, course. It could be anything, right? Could be absolutely anything. But I got speaking to people. I got speaking to people at events, at meetups, at just random places. The amount of people who I met who had a similar mindset to me was absolutely staggering, and I loved it. Now, for me, the vision that I'm sharing may not be as relatable. Maybe you don't want a business. Maybe you don't want a online income. Maybe you just want to have a more high-flying job or just a difference, right? It all starts by going outside of your comfort zone, which oftentimes means moving or at least temporarily leaving your city. And I come back here as I am now. And it's quite funny because I don't hate my city. I don't hate the people in my city. I quite like it. Are there better cities out there? Yes. Is it the best place for long-term opportunities? Probably not, no. But you've got to work with the options that you've got, okay? So I'm not going to moan about it. But I come back here and it's like, yeah, nothing's changed. The shops that have always been there are still there. This is a really funny thing, right? Because I've been out of school for 7 years, 8 years, touching on 10 years now. And every so often, I'm not even going to lie about it, I'll go on someone's social media, just see what they're up to, And a lot of them are still doing the exact same things, hanging about with the exact same people, and all the same as what it was maybe 5 to 10 years ago. And of course, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm not insulting them. I'm not saying that's bad. But all of my friends now, I'm just trying to make sure this is the case. Maybe one or two, but essentially all of my friends are people that I've met after school, people who I've met internationally whilst I was on adventures or in airports, or people who I went to university with or stuff like that. They may not all be from fancy locations. Some of them are, of course, or even work, jobs that I've done. All of my friends and close people are people I've met since school, definitely predominantly, but almost entirely. And you speak to people, How have you been, bro? Yeah, just been about. It's been 10 years. And I'm not, again, I'm not hating on anybody. I'm not saying that's wrong. You do what you want. You do what you feel comfortable with. It's not my place to say. I don't care. I don't care if the people who I went to school with want to stay working and living within a mile of where they went to school, was born, and will possibly die. I'm not saying that's wrong. That's actually good, and we need those people. The locals are the people who keep tradition going. They're the ones who keep the accent. They're the ones who keep the way of life. That is true. But maybe it's just a city move. Maybe it's just a area move from one part of the city to another. Maybe it's an entire country move. Maybe it's a continent move. Maybe it's a short-term thing. Maybe it's something that you just want to try out like I did. But you'll find it, or I think you will, find it very interesting how, a lot of the time we end up feeling like the outsiders. Perhaps it's because you do online business or you've got the sort of mindset that I may have, and you're told by people locally that you're wrong, it's impossible, it's too risky, it's too dangerous, it won't work, it's not worth it, you should just go get a job down the local shop or whatever. And of course, yeah, maybe there is some value to that, but you try it, you live it, and your mindset shifts. And of course, it's definitely influenced and changed my outlook on life and what I actually aspire to mid to long term. You may agree with this video, you may not. If you do, you've probably tried it. If you don't, you probably haven't. If you're on the fence, I recommend trying it. I don't know what you want to do, right? Maybe it's save up, get an Airbnb in a big city, do some meetups, because these days you've got apps for meetups, you've got events. Meet up with people, try and live that life. It may cost a bit of money, it may not financially make sense, but save up for it, give it a month. And people might say, well, that's a risk, it's a waste of time. To a degree, you could make that argument. But being as it's changed the entire course of what I want from my whole life, that's just me at least, I would recommend it to anybody. Go out there, see the world, see what you think to it, guys. If you're looking for your people in the wrong places, you're never going to find them. You'll always feel like an outsider, you'll always feel like you don't fit in, and they'll never change to match your needs, right? It's not about right or wrong, it's not about finding winners or losers. It's about saying there's different ways of operating in this world. None of them are necessarily wrong, but if you're finding like the one around you doesn't work, then it's time to grow, because again, you can always come back here like I am. Again, I sit in this car right now essentially in a car park in a supermarket that I remember coming to as a baby, which is quite a humbling thing, really. But what I'm saying is nothing fundamentally here has changed. It looks the same. I still know how the city works. I know how everything operates. I can hit up old friends. But at the same time, your mind gets activated and exhilarated by new adventures, meeting new people, speaking different languages, and all that sort of stuff. Definitely something worth considering. Short video here, but yeah, it's changed my mind on things. You guys may benefit the same. And I think if you're struggling with this question, it doesn't hurt to give it a try. Like I say, maybe go for a month or two. You come back here and it's like time stood still, same as it's always been. That's not a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But what I'm saying is the risk to reward is high. The reward to risk, I should say. The reward to risk potential is high. It's worth giving it a go, and at the very least you'll have some funny stories to tell at the end of your life of how you lived in another country for a month, or even another town, right? I've always heard this saying that if you don't know what you don't want, if you don't know what you do want, try what you don't want and you figure it out pretty quickly. If you don't know what you want in life, if you're not finding your people, give it a go, why not?